Greetings, adventurers. You're listening to The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood with me, Professor Atwood. I'm glad you're here, and I can't wait to tell you about my latest journey. Don't worry, it's a safe space. I'll handle all the danger for you. I designed these stories to help you relax, chill anxiety, and go to sleep. Maybe they'll even put a smile on your face, even if it's a sleepy smile. So please, settle in, relax, and prepare to quietly drift off with me to parts known, unknown, and even some places in between. Comfortable? Very well. Let's get underway. Good evening, adventurers. I hope you're doing well. Well, it's the end of the year, and what better way to close things out than with a Christmas wedding? As you remember, we had just gotten back from the alternate universe after accidentally being pulled into Professor Felice's wormhole maelstrom. After some repairs, alternate universe negotiating, and an oceanic chef bake-off, we were finally back home to our own dimension. But we were running late. We had to make it to my friend Benny's secret vacation island in time for his wedding. Thankfully, the entire crew was on board, literally and figuratively, to get to the wedding on time, and we set off straight away. I had originally met Benny on a trip to Alaska when I was exploring the Tongass National Forest in search of the legendary Soul Glacier. Benny was a famous washboard player, and we hit it off after a jam session when I brought my mandolin. He took me to an underground lumberjack competition where I saw bear wrestling and had the most delicious pancakes. Anyway, I'll tell you all about the secret Christmas wedding and an unexpected complication in a moment. But first, I need to tell you about a few things. First, I'd like to nudge you to rate the show with a bunch of stars. Please go into your podcast show player and rate the program with lots of stars. Reviews are great too, and we read every single one. But ratings with stars will awaken the sleeping algorithm. That algorithm will then start pushing the show to all the people who may not know about it, so they can discover it. So it's all important, for sure. So please rate the show and add some stars. If you want to add a review too, that's extra great as well. It's always nice to read pleasant things about what we're doing over here. Thank you, adventurers. Now I know you may be snuggled in and comfortable right now, so feel free to do it tomorrow when you wake up. Now, before I mention the White Cat Adventurers Club, I want to talk to you about something new. Some of you may not want to do a membership subscription, but still want to help the show. Bradley and I get it. We understand. So we've created a one-time Science and Adventure Helper donation link on the homepage. Just go to whitecatentertainment.com and click Donate for a one-time donation. Then you can do it whenever you like for whatever you like. Want to drop a Hamilton every few months? Great. That's $20. Or if you just want to donate a little or a lot one time or once a year, that's all up to you. Every bit of science and adventure help, well, helps. But if you do want more, there's the White Cat Adventurers Club. Now, I know we only meet twice a month, and only once in December and in July, as Bradley and I do take well-earned vacations, but do you want more? How about early access and an exclusive look at my very semi-weekly journal? You'll get some great extras in the White Cat Adventurers Club, like news, early access to the other podcast shows, exclusive news about the company and upcoming projects, a bonus episode of another show called What Are You Watching?, some graphic novels, and more. But the main thing is to support the show. Science and exploring is expensive, and your support helps make it happen. And for just $5 a month, you could show your support for the show. At the $10 tier, you can even get some curated soundscapes of episodes periodically. Think of it as a blank adventure canvas for your ears and mind. And at $20, you can get an exclusive t-shirt. So go to patreon.com/whitecatentertainment and enjoy the access your way. Or like I said, you just want to do a one-timey thing, just go to whitecatentertainment.com and click the donate link there. Thank you very much, adventurers. However you choose to help is very, helpful. So thank you again. And remember, every tier on Patreon has ad-free listening. So there won't be any ads at the beginning or the end of the show when you listen on Patreon. Now, let's get back to our joyful tropical holiday story. We had to get to Benny's secret island as soon as possible. We were off the coast of Madagascar and needed to get to a secret location in the Pacific Ocean. We had just said goodbye to Professor Felice and his crew as they sailed away for their own home port in Florida. Professor Felice once again apologized for all the bother with accidentally pulling us into another dimension, but I told him not to worry. These things happen in science and exploring. I was just glad everything worked out in the end. Speaking of that, he added, when I got back to LA, he said there would be multiple retro gaming cabinets waiting for me to replace the ones he needed for the repairs to the Wayfarer. I told him I appreciated it. We all waved and watched Professor Felice and the ship sail off into the horizon. We were headed in the opposite direction. Honestly, we couldn't have been further away if we tried. We were almost the exact same distance away whether we went east or west. Now, you're probably thinking, why not just hit a port and fly? Unfortunately, that was not an option. First of all, you don't get to a secret island by flying, unless you accidentally crash there. I'm not saying that hasn't happened, even to me, as it usually does happen at one time or another to any good explorer worth his salt. You just have to be careful there's not an active volcano, xenophobic locals, or an ancient temple guarded by supposedly extinct dinosaurs. I'm not sure what it is with secret hidden islands and dinosaurs, but they are there about 70% of the time. It's just something you have to factor in. Of course, if you leave the mysterious ancient temple alone, chances are the dinosaurs won't bother you. But I haven't known any adventurer or scientist who accidentally crashed, found an ancient hidden temple, and then just kept walking. It's just not what we do. Anyway, according to Colin, our navigator, it looked like sailing east would be the most efficient and expedient route to Benny's secret island, so off we went. We were again blessed with calm weather and sunny skies, and I once again enjoyed seeing only one sun up in the sky. It was a comforting sight. It was good to be home. I had another talk with Bradley, as this Christmas wedding would delay his usual December trip to his home, Christmastown, up near the North Pole. He smiled and said he and Dolores were looking forward to the wedding, and that his parents would understand if he took a delayed vacation to see them in early January. I told him to take all the time he needed, and that family was important. I would be spending some time with my family after all this was over as well. He also added that Dolores was going to go with him to Christmastown, and his family was eager to meet her. I said I was very happy to hear it. But he said she wouldn't go until myself and the crew were all safely back in our Southern California port. She was a professional, as always. The first few days of sailing were uneventful, which was a welcome change of pace. We were making good time, as the Recovery with its hybrid engines, even with the parts and materials we lost to repair the Wayfarer, was a speedy ship when she needed to be. And the energy reclamation systems were working perfectly, so we were only using a fraction of the fuel we would normally need. However, we had obviously traveled a long way, in 2 different dimensions, and would still need to stop to refuel and resupply soon. We were running low on fuel and food, and we would need to stop in Australia to resupply. However, there was another reason the crew wanted to make a stop in Australia. They all wanted to purchase wedding clothes and wedding gifts. I was a bit lukewarm on the idea, as an unscheduled shopping spree would slow us down. I wanted to make sure we arrived on time for the wedding. But the crew insisted. They argued that it would be far too impolite to show up to a secret island Christmas wedding empty-handed and underdressed. They had a point, so we would make the stop in Australia an extended one so everyone could get what they needed. We docked at Sydney Bay Harbor and began the resupply and refueling process. It would take some time, and we all took shopping shifts to get what we needed. I already had my wedding gift, the jewel-encrusted pirate cutlass from Captain Kidd's treasure, but everyone else wanted to shop for something a little more traditional. But truth be told, I rarely bring a suit with me on adventures unless there's a museum fundraising event or I'm receiving some kind of award along the way, and that's something I can always plan ahead for. This was not the case, and I admitted that the crew was actually correct on this. I had to do a little shopping myself to get a suit for the wedding. Beverly offered to help me pick something out after resupplying our food stores, which I appreciated. The refueling and resupplying was uneventful. There was a helicopter trader at the Sydney Harbor who noticed we were without our helicopter for the recovery. The owner offered to sell us a used one at a discount. He added that a salvage ship shouldn't be without a helicopter. Now, I agreed, but added that the recovery was much more than just a salvage ship, and that our helicopter was just in for repairs and would be back in service soon. So I politely declined his offer. As the crew each did their shopping for wedding clothes and wedding gifts, Frank, our diver/mechanic, asked if Barney, his pet cricket, was also invited to the wedding. I said generally Benny and his secret island had a no pets policy, with the exception of service animals. Obviously that rule was a complete fabrication, but it was much easier to make up a pretend animal rule than put Benny in an awkward position of allowing a cricket to attend his special day. Barney may chirp distractingly during the ceremony, no matter how well trained he was. Frank looked a little disappointed, but said he understood and would leave him on the recovery. I agreed that would be for the best. Beverly helped me pick out a nice dark gray suit, and the rest of the crew seemed very pleased with the clothes and gifts they found in Sydney. However, they had another request. They wanted to see the Sydney Opera House before we left. Honestly, between the shopping and now this, it was getting to be like some kind of tourism mutiny. However, the refueling was ahead of schedule, and despite it being a very tight schedule, we could spare a little more time. And I couldn't fault anyone for wanting to see the Sydney Opera House. It is spectacular. You see, the Sydney Opera House features a modern expressionist design with a series of large precast concrete shells, each composed of sections of a sphere with a radius of 246 feet, forming the roofs of the structure, set on a monumental podium. The building covers 4.4 acres of land and is 600 feet long and 394 feet wide at its widest point. It is supported on 588 concrete piers sunk as much as 82 feet below sea level. The highest roof point is 67 meters above sea level, which is the same height as that of a 22-story building. The roof is made of 2,194 precast concrete sections, which weigh up to 15 tons each. Now, although the roof structures are commonly referred to as shells, they're actually precast concrete panels supported by precast concrete ribs, not shells in a strictly structural sense. Although I don't think anyone admiring the building really cares about that trivial difference, to be honest. Though the shells appear uniformly white from a distance, they actually feature a subtle chevron pattern composed of 1,056,006 tiles in two different colors, glossy white and matte cream. Apart from the tile of the shells and the glass curtain walls of the foyer spaces, the building's exterior is largely clad with aggregate panels composed of pink granite. Significant interior surface treatments also include off-form concrete, Australian white birch plywood, and brush box glulam. Of the two larger spaces, the concert hall is in the western group of shells, the Jones Sutherland Theater in the eastern group. The scale of the shells was chosen to reflect the internal height requirements, with the low entrance spaces rising over the seating areas up to the high stage towers. The smaller venues, the drama theater, the playhouse, and the studio, are within the podium beneath the concert hall. A smaller group of shells set to the western side of the monumental steps houses the Bennelong restaurant. The podium is surrounded by substantial open public spaces, and the large stone-paved forecourt area with the adjacent monumental steps is regularly used as a performance space. The building also houses a recording studio, retail shops, cafes, restaurants, and bars, including the Opera Bar and Opera Kitchen. Guided tours are available, including a frequent tour of the front of house spaces and a daily backstage tour that takes visitors backstage to see areas normally reserved for performers and crew members. Now, this is what the crew signed up for, as they wanted the full experience. Now, the history of the Sydney Opera House's construction was also very interesting. Planning began in the late 1940s when Eugene Goossens, the director of the New South Wales State Conservatorium of Music, lobbied for a suitable venue for large theatrical productions. The normal venue for such productions, the Sydney Town Hall, was not considered large enough. By 1954, Goossens succeeded in gaining the support of New South Wales Premier Joseph Cahill, who called for designs for a dedicated opera house. It was also Goossens who insisted that Bennelong Point be the site. Cahill had wanted it to be on or near Wynyard Railway Station in the northwest of the Central Business District. An international design competition was launched by Cahill on September 13, 1955, and received 233 entries representing architects from 32 different countries. The criteria specified a large hall seating 3,000 and a small hall for 1,200, each to be designed for different uses, including full-scale operas, orchestral and choral concerts, mass meetings, lectures, ballet performances, and other presentations. The winner, announced in 1957, was Danish architect Jorn Utzon. Utzon's design was actually rescued by Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen from a final cut of 30 rejects. The runner-up was a Philadelphia-based team assembled by Robert Geddes and George Qualls, both teaching at the University of Pennsylvania School of Design. They brought together a band of Penn faculty and friends from Philadelphia, including Melvin Brecker, Warren Cunningham, Joseph Marzella, Walter Wiseman, and Leon Lasheter. Geddes, Brecker, Qualls, and Cunningham went on to found the firm GBQC Architects. The grand prize was 5,000 Australian pounds. Utzon visited Sydney in 1957 to help supervise the project. His office moved to Palm Beach, Sydney, in February 1963. Utzon received the Pritzker Architecture Prize, architecture's highest honor, in 2003. The Pritzker Prize citation read, "There is no doubt that the Sydney Opera House is his masterpiece. It is one of the great iconic buildings of the 20th century, an image of great beauty that has become known throughout the world, a symbol for not only a city, but of a whole country and continent." So there you have it. And I gotta say, it's just as spectacular at night, with color projections and a light show reflecting off the shells that aren't really shells. Anyway, the next day dawned brightly and the recovery was refueled and resupplied. The crew was back on board, having gotten all of their touring and shopping out of their system. It was time to head off again and get to this holiday wedding. I hoped there would not be any more stops or delays. But we were pretty much headed into the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so I was confident it would be a straight shot from here. Now, let me talk a little bit about Benny's secret vacation island. In case you don't remember, Alice was originally Benny's real estate agent, as he was in the market for a vacation property. He had been through multiple real estate agents, and no one could find anything he liked, as wealthy studio washboard players are notoriously selective. Benny and Alice hit it off, more than just real estate agent and client. She said she had the perfect property, albeit a little expensive. When she told him about it, Benny actually bought it sight unseen. It sounded great, but also because he trusted Alice. Alice had told him about this very selective, rare property that was originally Davis Land, a legendary pirate secret island that no one could seem to find twice. Turns out a group of pirates had found it after the pirate Davis's initial discovery, but they wanted to keep the island to themselves. So they made a deal with all the cartographers of the time to keep the island off the maps. The pirate Davis never had a clue his Phantom Island was once again found. And it also turns out that the other pirates never really liked Davis, so they kept the name of the island as Davis Land just for the irony, and so they could enjoy the inside joke over stolen barrels of rum in the Davis Land Pirate Lounge. So it was an uncharted island essentially hidden from sight. But as new technology developed and moved forward, it was more difficult to keep the island a secret. So that's why all the anti-imaging countermeasures were added. The plan was that it was supposed to be the lair of a supervillain, but because the location was so beautiful and tranquil, the original owner soon lost interest in world domination and became a college civics teacher instead. But he still had to unload the property, especially after the large investment into all the cutting-edge stealth technology to keep it from discovery. He put it on the market, and Alice brought it to Benny, and the rest is history. After a few days of smooth and pleasant sailing, we approached the secret island's coordinates. Captain Flynn, first mate and former hidden pirate Byron, and our navigator Colin all looked a little puzzled. According to the charts and instruments, there was nothing where we were headed. I smiled. That meant all of Benny's stealth and camouflage systems were fully operational. I radioed Benny and told him we were approaching. He told me he was delighted we could make the wedding and was eager to meet my crew. He added that he had a few new surprises added to the island since the last time Bradley and I had visited. Turns out Benny had made some upgrades to the island. I was all ready to begin shuttling my crew over with the mini-sub, but Benny radioed and said because of the wedding he had built an actual boat dock and extended the marine camouflage system over it. I was impressed. We could bring the recovery all the way up to the island and dock right there. As we approached the island per Benny's instructions, I instructed Captain Flynn, Byron, and Colin to ignore their eyes and just head for the seemingly large island rock face we were heading straight for. As we got closer, I could see the nervous looks on their faces, but Bradley and I smiled as we knew it was an illusion. Sure enough, just as we approached the wall, Benny turned off the aqua holograms and a large, newly constructed dock was revealed. The crew smiled and possibly breathed a sigh of relief as we docked the recovery. Benny and Alice were right there to greet us on the dock with a big warm hug, and it was nice to finally meet Alice. She was radiant and had the glow of love all around her, as did Benny. They made a lovely couple. I introduced my crew to them, and he said they were all welcome. He had prepared rooms for everyone. Turns out, he had also built a guest house just for the wedding, but he said he may leave it up afterwards, as it was nice to have guests on occasion, and not have them stay in the main house. Benny liked his space, which I understood. The crew and I took a long look at this beautiful island getaway. They were amazed at the technology, from the holographic cliff walls to the aqua stealth radar bouncing systems above us, and the way that none of these things dampened the experience or affected the view. The beach was once again calm and inviting, with the holographic cliff face only projecting on one side, so we enjoyed the view of the ocean and horizon as the waves slowly and gently crashed upon the fine white sand. The sun was shining brightly, and I only saw one long-distance pelagic bird sitting on a palm tree, taking a holiday break from whatever long journey he was on. I also told the crew not to worry about sunscreen, as another ingenious subsystem of the Aqua radar bouncing stealth technology was that the system also tracked where people were on the island and blocked all the harmful UV spectrum radiation without blocking any of the light. Kind of like having an automated traveling UV filter window. But there were more sights to take in before we settled in at the guest house, and Benny and Alice smiled as we all looked on in appreciation. It was clear they had taken a little extra time to wow us, and they made quite an effort to bring the Christmas spirit to a tropical island, which I must say was quite a change from Christmastown near the North Pole, and a heck of a lot warmer. While Christmastown is located on hot springs, so it never gets unbearably cold, I can't say the same for the rest of the surrounding area, which gets so cold it hits numbers so low your thermometer just gives up at some point. So the tropical Christmas took a little getting used to, but it was a pleasant change of pace. Benny and Alice had the entire island decorated not just for the wedding, but for Christmas as well. Lights and flowers were everywhere, mixed with tasteful Christmas decorations. There was a whole section on the beach where he had made a sand snowman scene with snowballs and scarves. It was fun and creative and really captured the spirit of the Christmas wedding. Benny then smiled as he noticed I was enjoying the Calypso Christmas music. It's something he had seen to personally and had arranged all the music himself. He even added a few washboards, of course, but I would expect nothing less. Now, it was still the afternoon, and the sun was shining brightly, so we'd have to wait for the full magic of the Christmas lights until the evening. But if everything looked amazing already, I couldn't wait to see what it looked like at night. Benny walked us over to the guest house as Alice walked back to the main house, where she was preparing an amazing dinner. Beverly offered to help, but she wouldn't hear it, saying we were all guests and all we needed to do was relax, freshen up, and meet at the main house for dinner in 3 hours. Other guests started to arrive, including friends, family, and the rest of Benny's band, and they were arriving via ship and submarine. It would be a small wedding, which is exactly what Alice and Benny wanted. As I said before, there were no planes or helicopters. It was just not that type of island, and only my modified boat pod was able to breach the stealth systems, but only then because I was acting on a hunch and didn't trust my readings. The whole point of a secret island lair is that you have to approach it by sea, on top of or under, or not at all. The guest house was a modest Cape Cod, just like the main house. It was charming and quaint inside and was open and airy, and was the perfect guest beach house as the smell of the salty air and the sound of the gentle waves carried over into the house, relaxing everyone even more. Captain Flynn set a rotation schedule for rounds and inspections for the recovery, to make sure everything was running smoothly. But even he and his former hidden pirate first mate Byron chose to stay in the guest house instead of the ship. It was that inviting. For once, I believe they forgot all about snacks for a while. Everyone relaxed into their accommodations until it was time for dinner. I laid down on the soft, comfortable bed and just listened to the gentle breaking of the waves against the sand and breathed in the salty smell of the clean, warm air. I pulled out my book and was rereading Lord of the Rings, and I was on the Fellowship of the Ring. I sank further into the bed as I read and was quickly whisked off to Middle-earth. Before I knew it, it was time for dinner. I gave myself enough time to wash up and get ready, and soon made my way over to the main house. Here, Benny and Alice had made a lovely dinner for everyone, with a mix of surf and turf where there was steak and lobster, crab, shrimp, roasted potatoes, along with corn on the cob, peas, and green beans with slivered almonds. Everything was delicious. We got to know the other guests, from Benny and Alice's friends and family to Benny's band. Everyone was in good spirits. Benny concluded the meal with a toast where he said he considered himself the luckiest guy in the world and how he loved Alice dearly, and even thanked the supervillain who sold the island, causing Benny and Alice to inadvertently be brought into each other's lives. Everyone cheered and echoed the sentiments of the toast. But then it was Alice's turn to make a toast, and that's where things took an unexpected turn. Alice raised her glass and looked troubled for a moment. I immediately noticed and asked if there was anything the matter. She looked at me a bit sadly and asked if I knew anything about weddings and traditions. I said I knew some, but was by no means an expert. She took a deep breath and then started telling us that basically, a wedding is a celebratory ceremony where two people are brought together in matrimony. Wedding traditions and customs differ across cultures, countries, religions, and societies in terms of how a marriage is celebrated, but are strongly symbolic and often have roots in superstitions for what makes a lucky or unlucky marriage. Superstition is often linked to practices involving luck, fate, or prophecy, and while many weddings are now more focused on celebratory traditions, many are still practiced, and numerous well-known wedding traditions have roots in superstitions from previous ages. For instance, a common example of a superstition involves no one seeing the bride in her wedding dress until the ceremony. Alice then added that that wasn't the one she was worried about. She went on with a few more examples. Traditional Chinese weddings might involve a tea ceremony rather than the Western tradition of exchanging vows. When a bride leaves with the groom, a good luck woman, a woman who has been blessed with healthy children, surviving parents, and a happy marriage, holds a red umbrella over the bride's head. This umbrella symbolizes raise the bark, spread the leaves, and protects the bride from evil. In India, rain on one's wedding day is thought to bring wealth and fertility to the marriage. Alice continued, something old, something new refers to the traditional rhyme originating in Victoria-era England, stating that, for good luck in a happy marriage, a bride must have on her wedding day something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, and a sixpence in her shoe. She added something old symbolizes the bride-to-be's past, her family, and her values, and could be a piece of jewelry or a similar token. A bride's something new might be a gift from the groom or her family and represents a new chapter in the bride's life full of good fortune and happiness. Something borrowed might be a bridal accessory lent by a friend or family member who themselves is happily married to ensure the bride's marriage is just as happy as theirs. Something blue represents purity, faithfulness, and modesty, projecting these values into the future marriage, and could come in the form of a blue ribbon or blue jewelry. Lastly, a sixpence in the bride's shoe, or even sewn into her dress, promises lasting wealth for the couple. Now, according to English folklore, Wednesday is the luckiest day to marry, and Saturday is the unluckiest. An auspicious rhyme from English folklore states, Monday for health, Tuesday for wealth, Wednesday best of all, Thursday for losses, Friday for crosses, Saturday for no luck at all. Maybe that's why Saturday is all right for fighting. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Also, according to English folklore, sprinkling the bride with wheat or rice brings fruitfulness. Also, according to the folklore, to ensure a good future, coins can be thrown over the head of the bride and groom. And if a cat sneezes on the eve of the wedding, it's a sign of good luck. I did not make that one up. A groom should rub elbows with his groomsmen for good luck. One can save crumbs from the wedding cake to ensure marriage in the future. It is good luck to throw shoes over the newlyweds. until of course someone gets hit in the head with a loafer. Thankfully, this one is rarely practiced anymore. The fourth finger of the left hand is the ring finger, as it was believed an artery ran from it to the heart, ensuring love. Additionally, a pre-18th century English belief that the fourth finger was the medicine finger, and from this arose a superstition that wedding rings have curative properties. Finding a spider on the wedding dress is said to be good luck, according to English folklore. Although I don't know one bride who agrees with this, especially after it happened to them. The traditional wedding cake originated in France, but cake at weddings was common throughout Europe. In the Middle Ages, guests would bring and stack their cakes up, and a French wedding superstition suggests that if the bride and groom can kiss over the top of the cakes without them toppling, they will enjoy a lifetime of happiness together. The well-known superstition that whoever catches the bouquet or garter thrown by the bride will be the next to marry is still a common ritual at weddings. The garter toss is said to have originated in France, but has roots in medieval superstitions. This originated in medieval Europe based on the superstition that it was good luck to get a piece of the bride's wedding dress. Guests would then gather after the ceremony and try to rip parts of the dress, sometimes seeing it torn apart. The tossing of the bouquet originated to distract the guests while the bride and groom made their getaway to the marriage chamber, upon which the groom would throw the bride's garter into the crowd of guests outside. Kind of like a marital Hunger Games. Carrying the bride over the threshold originates from an ancient Roman superstition upheld in medieval Europe, warning that evil spirits may curse a bride through the soles of her feet. So the groom must carry her to and through the doors of their new home to protect her and their marriage from misfortune. Bridesmaids are commonplace in many weddings across the world, but while they are included as friends and family members for support, they were once there for superstitious reasons that date back to ancient Rome. Bridesmaids, wearing dresses and veils, were used as a line of defense to trick evil spirits and envious suitors as to protect the bride. The wedding veil is a staple item in most wedding bridal wear and is based on the superstition that a bride's face must be covered before she reaches the altar in order to protect her and her future marriage from evil spirits. The superstition originated in ancient Greece and Rome, and the veil was often flame-colored for extra protection. In Scotland, a sprig of white heather is worn in the groom's buttonhole for good luck. I think some of my crew heard that one incorrectly, as I saw some giggles trying to be subdued. As Alice continued, we could all tell there was something pressing on her thoughts. She looked troubled again, and mentioned there were some marital bad luck superstitions as well, such as marrying in a church near an uncovered open grave leads to bad luck. I suppose that also means you hired a terrible wedding planner. Marrying in green is bad luck. It is bad luck for the bride to look at herself in the mirror after she's dressed in her bridal wear, but this one can be counteracted by the addition of another accessory after this. Marrying someone whose surname begins with the same letter is thought to bring bad luck. To change the name and not the letter is to change for the worse and not the better, as the saying goes. If you are a bridesmaid who stumbles walking to the altar, you will never be wed. That's often why the bridesmaids drink so much after the ceremony. A sapphire in a wedding ring will bring happiness to the marriage, while pearls, due to their teardrop-like shape, will bring misfortune. Alice said one of those, unfortunately, pertained to her, and she was afraid to get married tomorrow unless it was resolved. She had looked at herself in the mirror after she was all dressed in her bridal wear, even for the fitting, and wasn't worried about it because she always had another accessory to add. But she miscalculated and was out of accessories after her latest look in the mirror. Beverly, Dolores, and the other women at dinner instantly offered theirs for her use, but Alice smiled sadly and said it didn't work like that. She already had something borrowed along with something blue, and this had to be hers. Before she was a real estate agent, she was in the family business of fashion accessories, so unfortunately, she took it very seriously and was very selective. Benny was the same way, obviously, considering where we were standing, and I could see that serious selectivity was one of the shared traits drawing them to each other. Benny tried to keep a good humor and announced that there was only one thing for it. Alice would have to go onto the other side of the island to visit the pirate lounge to see if there were any accessories she could use there. But that would mean the wedding would be postponed, hopefully briefly, but there was nothing for it. Now, as a scientist, obviously, I had some strong opinions on superstitions and luck, but it wasn't my wedding and not my call to make. We had to support and help Alice, and that's all there was to it. As much as we all wanted a Christmas wedding, you know what they say about the best laid plans. It looked like if I could help get all this sorted, it would be a secret island tropical New Year's wedding, which was still pretty great. So I will tell you all about our trip to Benny's Secret Island Pirate Lounge in order to save their wedding next time in the new year. But before I end this evening's story, I want to mention something, and that's connection. A wedding is the ultimate connection with another person, someone you want to spend the rest of your life with. Of course, sometimes it doesn't work out that way in the long term, but for a time, it does. We were about to watch Benny and Alice get married, if we could get the accessory issue resolved, and due to some unforeseen circumstances, the Christmas wedding became a New Year's wedding, and that was all perfectly okay, and worked out just fine for everyone there, from Benny to Alice to all of the guests. If there's anything we all need to be during the holidays, it's flexible. But the point I want to make is about connection. Throughout our lives, we are seeking it. Whether we're connecting with a friend, a coworker, a child, a potential spouse, or maybe even an adversary. All we do comes back to seeking a connection. We study science to connect more with the universe around us, and we go on adventures to connect more with the great mysteries presented to us. But they all relate to each other and come back to the same thing. The center of that Venn diagram with people, the universe, and mysteries. And of course, in the center of that diagram is connection. So this holiday season, connect. Enjoy time with family, friends, and of course, the universe and its mysteries. Good night, adventurers. Happy holidays and safe travels.
The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood was created, written, and performed by Chris Mancini and produced by White Cat Entertainment. It is a work of fiction. Maybe. Music and sound design by Ron Tansky at rontanskymusic.com. For more info and merchandise, including t-shirts, mugs, and blankets, go to whitecatentertainment.com.